Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you all the possible variations of the fried liver attack, how you can defend and maybe counter attack your opponent. So let's go. e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, and then knight to f6. And here white plays this move which is knight to g5, attacking your vulnerable f7 pawn, thinking he could fork with your rook and your queen. But actually you have a brilliant move which is knight takes e4. Now you might think, what if it is just a free knight? Yeah, but if you take the knight, then I just fork you with the move d5. And here, suppose bishop takes pawn, and then your queen can just pick up the bishop, and it is a better position according to Stockfish. So what if white doesn't take the knight and instead goes for the attack by capturing on f7? Then you play with a move which is queen to h4, and now you're threatening a checkmate on their vulnerable f-pawn. So here there are only 3 moves by which white could defend, and the most likely move for white to play is g3. And apparently this is the worst move out of 3 because you can just capture g3 by your knight. That is because if white takes with the h-pawn, you just win the rook, and if king goes forward, you have this knight check. The king has to go even more forward, and then you just win the queen. So after this check, instead of moving the king forward, you can also block it with the bishop, and here you can pick up the knight with your king, and you're simply a rook up. In this position, white takes with the f pawn. Then you have this queen to e4 check, forking the king and the rook. And here, if suppose king goes to f2, thinking the queen is now defending the rook, then you have this bishop to c5 check. White can defend with d4, but it is just useless because you can capture on d4, and the king has to go back. You take the rook here, then queen g2 check. If the king goes back, then this is a simply checkmate. If king comes forward, then pawn here is checkmate. Now what if in this position, instead of playing g3, white decides to castle? Then you can just capture f2. White takes with the rook. You can play bishop to c5, forking the rook to the king. White can defend it with this move. You play rook to f8. Best move for white here is knight to a3, protecting this bishop, and you can just exchange all the pieces. Bishop takes rook, queen takes bishop, queen takes queen, king takes queen, and here rook takes knight, bishop takes rook, and king takes f7. This is a pretty equal position, and you can play from. Now instead of playing g3 or castling, what if white defends with queen, which is queen to f2? Then here you can play knight to d4, attacking the queen, and here best move for white is to play g3. You can take the queen, white takes with the pawn, you bring your knight back, and here white takes your rook, and here you take this pawn and fork, and you also eventually win their rook. And this is the type of position you end up in. Okay guys, now moment of truth. To be honest with you, if after black captures this pawn, white can threaten checkmate and counter attack, or bring the position to an equal game only after white captures this pawn with his knight. But in fact, white can also capture it with his bishop, and this is actually a problem for black because the king has to move. And now best move for white is to play this, attacking the knight and also protecting the knight. You don't capture your knight with this knight because white will recapture it with the bishop, and then your king will get checked, and then it has to make a run. So instead you attack the knight, knight takes knight, and you take the bishop. And basically here black has just lost the right to castle. So the best move for black The only defending move, the only good move which works against the fried liver is actually the move d5. If white takes with the pawn, you have knight to a5, and here you have to play along. But if you're playing a blitz or a bullet match, or you're intermediate or a below level player, I will just suggest you to capture on this pawn, because it will just confuse your opponent, and it is really fun variations ahead. Instead of, but if you're a tournament, you're playing in a tournament or something like that, then yeah, you should go with the move d5 against this. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope it helped you.